The perfect daily or weekly routine doesn't exist. Or at least I believe while everyone wants something like that to work, no one actually sticks to a perfect weekly or even daily routine. And the problem is that this is being glorified by the 5 a.m. CEO routines or the day in the life videos. We might have even downloaded apps to help us micromanage our schedules and put everything into place because everything on your to-do list and in your life is important and everything needs to be done, correct? Not true. And let me show you how I came to this conclusion. And I also do want to share with you something that I have stumbled upon a few months ago, which helped me really consolidate some of these ideas and, more importantly, provided me with an alternative to having the single perfect routine. Now, the idea of not having a perfect routine became very obvious to me when I revisited my journal entries from a while back. My perfect routine would look something like 3 to 4 gym sessions a week, 3 to 4 BJJ sessions a week, waking up at a set time, going to bed at a set time, meal prepping on a set day, etc., etc. It is extremely rigid. And after a few things that have happened in my life, I tried to rationalize, why can't I have a routine now? I mean, surely I could pivot, right? And then it hit me so hard when I went to compete at a local BJJ tournament. And I was talking to some of the younger competitors who mentioned to me that their entire weekly routine, or even some daily routines, are centered around training, sleep, eat, and studying. They don't have any responsibilities. That is so crazy because when we are young, it really is true that we don't really have much responsibilities. So when we're given this optimal structure or perfect weekly routine, we can follow it. But as we grow older, you start to take on more, and sometimes these responsibilities don't always fit into a routine. It literally just needs to be done so that the outcome can actually happen. And this is where the idea of non-negotiables comes into play. They are not necessarily time-bound. And the point of non-negotiables is to get it done by, say, the end of the week, end of the day, or end of the month. But then the big question is, how can you decide what is a non-negotiable? What is important? When or how does it need to get done? Not everything is important. And a few months ago, I stumbled upon a framework to help me consolidate what is truly important and filter out what isn't. You might have heard of this before. It is called the Eisenhower Matrix, and it is broken down into 4 quadrants. Quadrant number 1 are urgent and important tasks. These are big fires, as some might call it, and it needs to be done as soon as possible, and you have to drop every single thing to do it. Quadrant 2, these are the important but not urgent things. And the idea is to try to do as many of the tasks in quadrant 2 and spend as much time in this quadrant, as these tasks generally yield the best return on investment of your time. It doesn't really have the same sense of urgency of the task in quadrant 1, however, it yields significant results. Think studying, or creating this video, or spending time with family. It is important, but it is not urgent. In quadrant 3, this is the urgent but not very important task. And this is tricky because in the traditional Eisenhower Matrix model, tasks that fall into this quadrant are generally not your biggest priorities. It is said that they are other people's problems. Now, the idea is to then delegate these tasks as much as possible. But if you are anything like me, you might not have the logistical or even financial means to delegate everything, or potentially even just a task. So what is helpful here is when you have a set task in this quadrant, learn to set boundaries, learn to say no, or try to at least automate the system. For example, managing finances can be something pretty much automated, especially with the technology these days, with most banking apps giving you that option. In quadrant 4, this is the not urgent and not important quadrant, the nice to haves, as some would say. it doesn't really give you any long-term benefit. Heck, it might not possibly even give you any short-term benefits. And in reality, if you're very time poor and your perfect routine or structure isn't really working out for you, the reality is that you have to just look at tasks in these quadrants and delete them from your entire week. Now, essentially your list of non-negotiables are going to be entirely consisting of things from quadrant 1 and quadrant 2, maybe 1 or 2 additional tasks from quadrant 3 in that order of importance. Interestingly, this matrix or this idea tends to also work in other areas of life. For example, health and fitness, where we can label quadrant 1 as big rocks. Consistency. This would be things like getting into the gym just once a week for an entire year, or focusing on eating the right calories to meet your goals. And in quadrant 2, the nuances of the big rocks of quadrant 1. These are going to be the things that take you to the next level. Analogous to things like macro splits, addressing micronutrient deficiency, specific programs tailored for your goals. Again, important things, but not as urgent as just being consistent as things in quadrant 1. Because if you solely just focus on being consistent, quadrant 1, you're probably going to get to most of your health and fitness goals. In saying that, not many will have the logistics to actually work on things in quadrant 2, because most of us have responsibilities outside of just trying to stay healthy and perform well. We are mostly not athletes, we don't get paid for these things. And this is where things like your gym program, nutrition recommendations, and all that good stuff, which is important, gets bumped into quadrant 3, right? They are urgent because it helps you drive progress, but it's not important. And this is the classic example of I'm being consistent, but I'm not seeing results. Consistency is king, for sure, when it comes to making progress, especially with your health and fitness. Hence why it is the big rock. This is the quadrant 1 task. But for those who are consistent, you will know this. It only will get you that far after a few months. And then you want to start to leverage your limited time or logistics to work on your health and performance and all that good stuff. Which is why I have this whole new coaching program tailored to help you to just do that. Now, the goal here is to help you craft your own health and fitness system and making it as sustainable as possible based on your life. This is done by giving you things like some programs, giving you specific nutrition recommendations, providing you live coaching, and just allowing you to ask me questions and troubleshooting anything that comes up, particularly when it comes to your health, performance, nutrition, training, all that stuff. The caveat here, this is not for everyone, especially if you have not got the big rocks done, such as just being consistent, getting into the gym, or at least trying your best to eat healthier. If you are already doing those things though, and you want to really level up, check out the link in my bio and allow me to help you maximize your time to get to your health and performance goals. Back to this whole idea, you can see how the Eisenhower Matrix ties in with life, whether it is trying to work on your health and fitness goals or just general life admin. You are very likely going to have a list of urgent tasks or priorities and a list of not urgent but extremely important tasks. You can then look at your list and work your way down through the list. I'm not saying that scheduling things or having a weekly schedule or a routine isn't important. It is great. I just think it is the over-glorification of this optimal routine and needing to wake up at a certain time and sticking to a certain routine is going to shoot yourself in the foot at some point in your life, particularly as we grow older. Again, you're going to have a lot more responsibilities, and so you have to be a little bit fluid and flexible in understanding on how to prioritize certain tasks in your head and in your life, what needs to be done first and what just needs to not be a priority. The important thing here is this: don't think of having a locked-in optimal schedule. Just consider having non-negotiables, working off a list, and using something like the Eisenhower Matrix to help you determine what are most urgent and important tasks and what tasks just needs to be deleted from your week and work down the list in that order. I think this is a far more efficient way to get your week, your life, and just your general headspace organized to make sure things are done and drive progress forward to get closer and closer to any of the goals that you have in mind. I hope this helps in terms of your planning and giving you a conceptual framework to approach a week. Let me know if you have any questions, leave it down in the comments below, and as always, have a good rest of your day.